Kevin Durant going to the Knicks or the Rockets or maybe even the Timberwolves? Kevin Durant has been in the NBA news recently because there have been speculations about him potentially being traded this summer. Now, these rumors really started after the trade deadline, especially because he was almost traded at the deadline. So we know it was a possibility. And now the rumors are starting to heat up even more. And there's never any guarantee, but most people think at this point he is going to be traded. It's just a matter of when and where. So that opens up the discussion of the Timberwolves, the Rockets, the Knicks, the Spurs, and the Miami Heat are apparently the 5 teams who are potential candidates. So I'll give my opinion on each team and if I think it's a good deal for both sides and if I think it should happen. So let's start with the Knicks because that's a very interesting situation. The thing about the Knicks is they have a lot of good players on the roster who Phoenix would be interested in. Obviously, Jalen Brunson is out. Like, they are not giving up Jalen Brunson. And you would think that they are not giving up Cat either. But one thing to keep in mind is that Devin Booker and Karl Anthony Towns are like best friends. And you guys know I don't follow these players' lives outside of basketball, but I do remember seeing everywhere it was Cat, Booker, and D'Angelo Russell. They would always hang out together. And so they would love to pair Cat with Booker, right? Because best friends. And obviously they could use a center on Phoenix. That's where I feel like it's interesting, but I don't think the Knicks would want to give up Cat or will give up Cat in a trade for Kevin Durant. So then that leaves Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby because those are their other 2 super, talented players who also make money to make the salaries match and are people who the Phoenix Suns could want. Here's where it gets trickier. Mikal Bridges was already on the Phoenix Suns, and he played well there. There was nothing wrong about what he did, but I don't know that the Phoenix Suns want Mikal Bridges back just because they already had him, right? It's nothing against Mikal Bridges. So, to me, that leaves OG as the only option. And I would not trade OG. I would not if I was the Knicks. I think OG, especially now when you see Brunson is out, the element that he brings, I feel like you can't replace that. And I personally would not trade him if I was the Knicks, even though Kevin Durant would be an awesome fit because Kevin Durant is an awesome fit everywhere he goes. So I would say this would be a yes for the Phoenix Suns if they were getting OG and stuff like that, but it's a no for the Knicks for me. Now let's go to the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is a yes. Well, I mean, obviously it always depends on what you have to give up, but like this is a clear-cut yes for me. Why? KD and Ant-Man, or rather, Ant-Man idolizes KD, right? We saw, I made a video, I said it was the summer of Ant and KD. Like, Ant was attached at the hip to KD during the Olympics. And rightfully so, he got to hang out with his idol all summer. Like, that's super cool, his favorite player. And so, Kevin Durant, besides the friendship there, Anthony Edwards is ascending in his prime. Kevin Durant fits, again, on any team, and he is kind of what the Timberwolves could use. Like a straight up, will make the shot if you pass it to him, efficient scorer, like end of the game, pass it to him for a 3, he'll probably make it, pass it to him for mid-range, he'll definitely make that because it's cash every time. And I feel like that would really help Anthony Edwards because Kevin Durant, even at 36, 37, you cannot leave him open. He's already going to make over 50% of his shots with a hand in his face. But if he is wide open, it's probably going to be like 80%. And so now you have to like pick your poison, so to speak. KD or Ant-Man, because Ant-Man gets a lot of double teams. And it's not that other players on their team can't score, but we know there are, certain caliber, like when you're KD, when you're LeBron, when you're Steph Curry, the defense is going to gravitate even more towards those players. And so KD is one of those players, and it'll help Anthony Edwards get more open looks. But I don't know what Phoenix would be asking for in return from Minnesota. I think it's a win for Minnesota. If I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm doing the deal. But if I'm the Phoenix Suns, I'm not so sure. So now let's go to the Houston Rockets. This is the team that I feel like you need to look out for, but I don't know if it's Kevin Durant's first choice. I don't know where KD wants to go. If he even wants to leave Phoenix, I really couldn't tell you what KD wants. And he's not going to tell us either. He's not going to tell us. Like, it's his business and he's going to keep that to himself. And that's fine. So I'm not going to speculate what KD wants. But from a team perspective, I think this makes a ton of sense for both sides. Something you have to keep in mind and remember, and I pointed this out maybe during the trade deadline when I was saying look out for the Houston Rockets to be a potential trade candidate for Kevin Durant. So why is that? The Houston Rockets have the Phoenix Suns picks. How did they get the Phoenix Suns picks? They made a deal with the Nets, I believe it was on draft night of this year, to give the Brooklyn Nets back their picks because Houston had their picks because they traded for James Harden and obviously had to give Houston picks in order to get James Harden. So the Houston Rockets had the Brooklyn Nets picks, which are very valuable now because the Nets don't have KD, Harden, and Kyrie anymore, right? Like they're not a top team. So the Houston Rockets did a deal with the Nets to give them back their picks, and the Nets had the Phoenix Suns unprotected picks because they made the deal to send KD to Phoenix, and so they swapped. They gave the Houston Rockets the Phoenix Suns picks. And we know the Phoenix Suns are not very good this year, especially if they're going to trade KD and basically start to rebuild in a way around Devin Booker. Those picks are going to be super valuable. So Houston, in my opinion, has a ton of leverage where they can just offer the Phoenix Suns their picks back and then obviously a player to make the salaries match and maybe one of the young guys. But unlike some of the other teams, they don't have to overhaul, their roster, like give up all their good players because they have picks that are super valuable to the Phoenix Suns, which gives them a leg up. And then from the Phoenix Suns standpoint, like I said, you get your picks back and a young player. That's exciting. So I'd say from a team standpoint only, not about what KD wanted, like in this scenario. From a team standpoint, this makes sense from both sides. I just don't know if the Houston is KD's first option. And the last two teams I'm just going to talk about quickly because I don't really think it makes sense, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, is the Spurs and the Miami Heat. I think for the Spurs, it doesn't make sense. Like, Victor Wembanyama has so much time. If you get KD, you literally need to win, next year. And Victor is so good that he could be competing very soon after, but, they're going to want a lot for KD, and I feel like the roster is not close enough at this moment where, if you add KD, everyone's going to pick them to be the favorite. So because of that, they could come out of the West. You got De'Aaron Fox, you got Victor Wembanyama, who could be insane next year. Hopefully he heals up and comes back. And then KD. So, that big three, if you want to call it that, is nice. But a lot of people wouldn't pick them as the favorite, and I feel like if you're not the clear-cut favorite to come out of the West, to give up all those assets for KD does not make sense for me. Because you have so much time with Wemby. You don't have to rush. It doesn't have to be next year, right? So that's how I feel about the Spurs, regardless of what Phoenix wants. And then, because obviously the Spurs have plenty of young players and, picks. So, the Suns would be like, yeah, let's do it. And then for the Miami Heat, I feel like that makes the least sense out of any team for both sides, because for Miami, you're going to have to probably give up Hero or Bam, and I feel like without all three of them together, even with all three of them together, people probably still aren't picking them to be the favorites to come out of the East either. But if you have to give up one of them, that's really difficult. You're putting a lot of pressure on KD and then just Hero. I don't see that as you have KD, he's really that good, but, I don't see that as the championship contending team unless, Miami always puts players together somehow, so, you can't count them out. But then also from Phoenix standpoint, I don't know that Miami has the most attractive package for them either compared to these other teams, so that's my opinion on that.